Race for the Galaxy is a hugely popular science fiction role selection card game.
In Race for the Galaxy, players compete to build the most powerful space civilization using a mix of unique cards and actions. The base game supports 2 to 4 players and plays in around an hour. There are also 3 expansions, all of which add new player options and mechanics. The Gathering Storm adds solo rules and a 5th player. Rebel vs. Imperium makes the game a bit more interactive. The Brink of War adds a 6th player. And there's also an upcoming 4th expansion called Alien Artifacts that'll be out in late 2012.
Players begin Race for the Galaxy with a player reference sheet, a starting planet face up, and a stack of action cards that correspond to the phases in the game. They then draw 6 cards from the supply and choose to keep 4. Then a stack of victory tokens is placed in the center of the table, and the number depends on the amount of players that are playing the game. Now, once those victory points are depleted, or once one player has 12 cards face up in their tableau, the game ends, and the player with the most victory points wins the game.
Each card in the tableau is worth the number of victory points listed in its hex symbol, and will also grant certain special powers during some of the game's phases. These powers are indicated on the left side of the card, with a symbol next to the number of the corresponding phase.
At the start of each round in Race for the Galaxy, each player chooses an action card and places it face down. Once everybody has chosen, we turn them all over and then go through the phases that have been chosen in order. Now, keeping an eye on what other players are going to choose for their action card is a very important part of the strategy in Race for the Galaxy, because even though everybody gets to take part in every phase that's chosen, only the player that chooses that action card gets the bonus for that card.
So the Explore phase lets players take new cards from the supply, and you're always going to draw more cards than you keep, which lets you choose them strategically. During the development phase, a player can buy 1 development for their tableau by discarding the number of cards that's equal to its cost, which is listed in the diamond symbol.
Now, the game includes a number of high-cost developments with a variable victory point value. So the victory points value for that card is going to depend on the other cards in your tableau. So if you decide to build your tableau around one of those development cards, that can be a really sound strategy for Race for the Galaxy.
The 3rd phase lets you settle a peaceful planet, which is marked by a black circle, by paying its cost. To settle a red military planet instead, a player has to have a military score in the 3rd line of their tableau cards that's equal to or greater than the planet's cost. Any planet with a colored circle around its symbol is going to provide a windfall of 1 trade good of the corresponding type at the time that it's settled. Now, trade good is just represented by a face-down card drawn from the supply and placed under the producing planet.
Goods can be exchanged for victory point tokens during the 4th Consume phase. Now, you can consume goods if you have consume abilities in your tableau. You can only consume as many goods as you have abilities to allow you to do so. If you choose the Consume Trade card, however, you get to trade first 1 good for more cards based on its value, which is shown on your player reference sheet.
In the final Produce phase, a player's solid-colored planets are going to produce trade goods according to their powers. Now, each planet can only have 1 good on it at a time. Windfall planets are only going to produce at the time they're settled, or if a player has chosen the Produce action during that round. At the end of the round, everybody's going to discard down to 10 cards in their hand, and then the new round begins.
So I really like Race for the Galaxy. I had a lot of fun playing it, really good time. One of the great things about this game is the action cards. It means that every round is not going to be the same, because different phases are going to happen, different action cards are chosen, it keeps things variable and it keeps them interesting. Another great thing about it is there are a lot of different paths to victory. So you can choose your own strategy and follow it, and it could be entirely different from somebody else's strategy, and they're both valid. A con for this game, however, it does feel a little bit like multiplayer solitaire if you're just playing the base game. It's definitely Race for the Galaxy. It's not Battle for the Galaxy. There's no real player interaction, which can be frustrating for some people. Another negative is if you're playing this game with a lot of people who've played it before, they know what cards are in the deck. So they're going to have an advantage because they can wait for those great cards that they know are in there. The beginner player is not going to know that.
Another thing that can really trip up beginning players is the fact that this game is really symbol-based. All of the powers that you can use are represented by symbols, and those aren't always super intuitive. So new players are going to find that it may take them some time to learn the language of the game before they can actually get on to tactics or strategy. Another negative, for me at least, is that the theme is really pasted on. You've got really neat images, there's lots of space language, but it doesn't actually mean all that much, especially the alien or the uplift things, which really only come into their own when you get the expansions. Now, the expansions themselves add a lot to the game. They flesh out the theme, they add more players, they add more depth to the mechanics, and they really do contribute a huge amount to the game and really boost its replay value. Another great thing about Race is that it's very quick to set up and play, so it's the kind of game that might end up hitting your table a lot more often than more complex ones, just because it's really quick and easy to pick up, and when you've got experienced players, it really goes at a blistering pace.